everyone. On behalf of Vikram Sarabhai Library, I welcome to Irina Patel. Welcome to all of you. Today's hybrid book talk program. For today's book talk, we have with Miss Ami Ganatra. She is our IIMA alumni. Welcome her. Her topic is relevance of Mahabharata and Ramayana in today's life and times. She is the author of the books titled Mahabharata Unravelled, lesser known facets of a well-known history, and Ramayana Unravelled, lesser known facets of Rishi Valmiki's epic. Professor Vishal Gupta from IIMA Ahmedabad will also join the conversation with the author. We would like to thank Ms. Ami Ganatra for having kindly agreed for this talk. Now, I request Professor Gupta to take over and thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody for joining in. It is a pleasure to have Ami with us. Let me introduce briefly. Ami is a 2008 IIMA alumna of the Institute. Well, she has experience working with Bain, consulting companies like Bain, and now has delved into two great epics of the country, Mahabharata and Ramayana, and she's here to talk to us about her books, some interesting stories and some insights that she would want to share with us. She is also a yoga enthusiast and has been into yoga for quite some time. I believe this was her motivation to kind of read Sanskrit, learn Sanskrit, read it for herself, and then discover some of the untold stories for us. And that is the title of her books, which is Mahabharata Unravelled, Ramayana Unravelled. So we look forward, Emmy, to your talk, and over to you for this. So what we'll do is we'll have Amy speak for 35 minutes or so, and then we'll have conversation. We'll have some Q&A.
Namo Namaha. You guys can hear me? Hello, hello, hello. Haji? Okay. Namo Namaha. It's always so good to be back on campus. मैं आई हूँ तभी वो बच्चे जैसे फुदकते हैं ना, अभी like jumping around, taking pictures around. LKP was like where we slept. Literally every evening was spent in LKP. So it's extremely, what do I even say? It's a privilege. It's an honor to be back here on campus. This place is extremely close to my heart. I was in Dorm 1, like right across, Dorm 1, 111. So yeah, lots of memories. And to come back to this campus, to be able to talk about books is, as I said, an absolute honor. And I can't thank Reena ji, Professor Vishal Gupta, all our professors here, Mr. Chand, to actually make this happen for me. And of course, Anurag and Akshay, who have been here talking about the book and making this happen. So thank you so much, everybody. This means a lot. And because I'm so excited, I don't have a clear line of thought or a speech in hand. Yeah? So it's going to be a little extempore. I'll share a little bit about why did I start writing Mahabharata Ramayana to begin with. But more importantly, does history matter at all? And does knowing history for what it is matter at all? Mahabharata Ramayana तो सब जानते ही है ना? ऐसा तो नहीं है कि people don't know. But then, is it जो हम जानते हैं? Is that what it really is, or there's more to it? And why does it even matter to know it in the form it is? Yeah, the main question is, it is itihas to begin with, right? We always called it mythology. Is it itihas to begin with? And if it is, even if it is, how does it matter? Yeah, those are some of the questions we'll try and explore. There's a lot I can talk about what's written in the books, but in half an hour, it won't be doing justice. बहुत सारी कहानियां हैं which we can delve into, but my objective would be to leave few thoughts with all of you, which hopefully will make you curious, one, to read these books, but even more than them, go back and read Itihas, Ramayana, Mahabharata for what it is. Yeah, so we'll start with that. But before I start, any specific questions you have, you want me to cover? Aisa kuch hai which is there on your mind? Yeah.
So, as I said, that we often very loosely refer to mythology, history, and religion as synonymous. How can we differentiate between these three? So that's one question I have.
Good, very good. Anything else so that I can cover it as we talk? That's been on your mind that you think I can maybe touch upon? Yeah.
So, the idea of right and wrong is not actions and so on.
Fantastic. Great. Very good.
So this is itihas, and as we say, ye itihas hai. So there must be something which would actually have happened and the true thing. And so tell us a little bit about what would be the right source or the authentic source to read and know itihas.
Sure.
So as it is mythology or itihasa, like this has happened and this has been told in a form of a story, a very long story. So while reading these mythological things, so what should we keep in our mind? This has just happened, or whether there is something right, wrong, something to learn, something to unlearn, and what is the applicability? Because this is something happened ages ago, and what is the relevance of those things in nowadays? So just something which we should know for the sake of knowing only, or maybe something more than that, something in depth or something subtle.
Fantastic. Thank you for this question. We are all sitting in a management institute, right? What is it for me? मेरे लिए क्या है? What do I gain from this? Yeah. Okay. Okay, great, fantastic. So, any other question? If I miss out on asking, मुझे याद करवाइएगा जी.
वर्ल्ड के हिसाब से देखा जाए तो क्वेश्चन चल रहा है वाल्मीकि का रामायण या रामायण की कोई भी बात करो, साइंटिफिकली इसको कितना ऑथेंटिकली हम इसको प्रूव कर सकते हैं, राइट? दूसरी बात, महाभारत अभी थोड़ा हिस्ट्री इसके ऊपर काम कर रहा है, आई एम टॉकिंग इन टर्म ऑफ द आर्कियोलॉजी, ठीक है? तो यहाँ पर हिस्ट्री, स्पिरिचुअल बुक, स्क्रिप्चर्स और माइथोलॉजी, इनके बीच एक डिफरेंस है जो स्क्रिप्चर्स और माइथोलॉजी को अलग करता है. इंडिया में एक ऑथर है, मैं किसी का नाम नहीं लेना चाहता, मगर वो इसको माइथोलॉजी से ही लोगों के बीच लेके जाते हैं. दैट इज रियल injustice to the scriptures. I am describing both the book, Mahabharata and Ramayana both, as a scripture, not a mythology. That I want to say. And this is the point which is necessary to be bring in light.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much. So let me start with this. Why did I get interested in this? Yeah. So a few years back, I moved to Hong Kong and got to work with a lot of international people. There were like 15 nationalities in my own team. 15 किस्म की nationalities. Yeah. There were some Indians, some Germans, largely Germans, but there were Europeans, there were South Americans, and it was very interesting. You know, we talk of stereotypes. Yeah, and we say no stereotype nahi hona chahiye, you shouldn't generalize and all that. But it's, if you observe, people tend to behave in a certain way. Yeah, there is a certain way in which the Germans will behave and think. There is a certain way in which Indians will behave and think. Of course, individually will differ, but by and large, yeah. And what was very interesting for me is to see that whenever there were such situations jahan pe chaos ho, there's no clarity, right? Germans will have no way to proceed. They'll be stuck. Whereas an Indian, he'll sail through. Mast. Yeah. I was like, what is the difference? Why is this happening? What is the difference between me and that German guy? That are our brains wired differently? What is it? Right? Wherever we go, wherever Indians are across diaspora, across the world, have you ever seen ki, oh, they are intolerant, they are trying to push their way? No, we haven't. right? They tend to gel wherever they go. Why is that? And is that common with everybody? No, it's not, right? But we do that, right? We never insist that this is the only way. People would insist there will be people. Again, I'm just generalizing. But by and large, we are okay with saying, "Acha, tumhara Bhagwan, mera Bhagwan," sab chalta hai, right? There will be so many people where we'll have a Jesus, a Ram, a Krishna, a Shivji, everything. सब कुछ होता है. एक जन बोलेगा घर पे, for me it's only Krishna. The other will say, अपन तो शिव भक्त, right? And we're fine with it. So what is it that differentiates Indians from the rest? Likewise, there are bad things also, not to only say good things, right? It's positives and negatives both. But given that we as a civilization have existed where all the other ancient civilizations have perished, there must be something going for us, right? We can beat ourselves blue over anything and everything. Jativadi, misogyny, phalana, dhikana, right? But we have survived where everyone else has perished. What is it that makes us survive, right? These were the questions in my mind as I interacted with the world outside, moving out of India. Yeah. Then there is another thing. Queen Elizabeth passed away today. Yeah. May she rest in peace. She was only a titular figure. Kuch unke paas, as such, there was no power, so to say, right? But the Britishers stuck to it. Yeah. Why? Why is that? She was somebody who connected them to their past, to their history that mattered to them. Trump used to keep saying, "Let us make America great again." What? Again? Why? What is that again? What back? What was he trying to go to? There's some history that he's talking about, right? Pakistan, we know they came out of our civilization, right? Because they don't have heroes, they don't have a past, what do? They try and own or create narratives about their history, right? Why does history matter so much? In fact, the most glaring example of that, you know about this Aryan Dravidian theory, right? We all were fed that Aryan invasion theory. And then we have Germans who claim to be Aryans. Very interesting, right? Germans क्यों? उनका तो कुछ लेना देना नहीं है. And when did they start claiming? They started claiming after we were colonized and after they started studying Sanskrit and understanding our history and our past, right? Why? Because it's very interesting. All other European powers by that time had colonies. These guys had nothing to really talk of. But everyone, all civilizations need something that they can call theirs, their past, which gives them a sense of greatness, something that defines them. So what do a lot of these guys do? They see this, acha, these guys, ye bhukhe nange people in India who have no khana pina, nothing they have, kale kalute, but they have this rich cultural heritage. It cannot belong to them. How can they have it? If they have it, means somebody from us only went there and gave them, right? इनके पास तो हो ही नहीं सकता है. Also because per the biblical there is a clear hierarchy in terms of your skin color, right? So if there is something worthwhile, it has to come from the Buddhas. It can't come from anywhere else, right? This is what started the conception of the Aryan invasion theory. And for Britishers, it worked very well. Why? Because they could justify their own invasion, right? मैंने कहा आप लोग तो यहाँ के हो ही नहीं ना. तो आप क्या कह रहे हो कि यहाँ से चले जाओ? This was never yours. You also came and you invaded and you killed the people here. यहाँ द्रविडियन थे, इनको आपने मार दिया. ठीक है? So now you see why history matters. एक तो everyone wants a sense of identity, which the history gives them, right? But more than that, it is also how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive the world around us. And how assertive we are about this identity will define how the world outside perceives us, right? Think of China. When the communist revolution happened, they tried to erase the past. Yeah, they tried to completely erase the past. They were like, "Ye sab bakwas hai. Sara, the elites take this and all that." Now, what are they doing? Do you know what they're doing? Every country will have some Chinese institute. They're trying to claim back Confucianism, they're trying to claim back Buddhism, everything. They're trying to claim back their past rich heritage. Again, why? Because as I said, soft power. It is about how you interact with the world and the world interacts with you, right? So one thing we must all remember, that history matters. We cannot run away from history. And as we define ourselves with the history, there is a positive to it and there is a negative to it as well. We can become a servile generation if we hate ourselves. And by and large, if we don't study our history, others are studying. You know what was really shocking? There is one or rather two full translations of Mahabharata in English, of the critical edition. Yeah. But you go abroad, there are so many of these people studying. They are translating in their own ways, right? We don't have a good enough translation of the 4 Vedas in English written by an Indian. What do we refer to? Griffith, whatever, right? Aaj ke din bhi. So we may not study it, they are studying it, right? Why are they studying it? Because again, foreign policy. You had Dr. S. Jaishankar come here, right? You should check out his speech which he made at Bharatiya Vichar Manch. Here he spoke about foreign policy and all that. In Bharatiya Vichar Manch, he spoke about why history matters and how we can use our history, our lessons from our past to engage with the world. So I won't go into that part. But this is one part why history matters. The second thing is, when people say mythology or history, itihas, what is it? We've always been told it mythology hai. This never happened. Even the more logical amongst us will say, "Arey yaar, ye to doesn't make sense, scientifically relevant nahi hai." And there are parts which don't seem scientific. So we are very happy to reject it and say, "This is mythology." Now, what is mythology? Mythology is a belief system of a group of people. Okay, it could be true, it may not be true. But the way the connotation of mythology has happened now basically means it is a false belief system. The connotation, the word itself doesn't mean that, right? So when they say it is mythology, they're telling you you don't have a past. Your past starts when we tell you, which is Aryan invasion theory, right? 1500 AD. Now with the archaeologists, so they always say, "Arey, but archaeology kidhar hai? Archaeological evidence, right?" Now they're moving back, no? They didn't know 1500, pehle 1500 tak hi tha. Abhi they're moving back and back and back. Rakhigadi is even further down, yeah? So we know that we as a civilization existed much before. Just because some aspects of archaeology doesn't exist or don't exist right now doesn't mean they're not there. But that is one part. Is there something in the text itself which can help us say whether this is itihas or not itihas? Let's start with that question. So what is itihas? Okay, I've said this in a lot of talks. I think you sort of translated it also very well. Itihas, and even though I've said it multiple times, I'm going to say it till every single person in India starts repeating that. Yeah, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Mokshanam, Upadesham, Samanvitam, Purva, Vrittam, Kathayuktam, Itihasam, Prachakshate. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. The 4 Purushartha, which are set for a Sanatan Dharma. Yeah, I'll come to the Purusharths later on. It's basically the goals of life. It's basically how should you live your life in a worthwhile way. Yeah. So it says this thing that we're going to talk about gives it helps us to understand how to live our lives. One. Second, it says Purva Vruttam, something that happened in the past. Kathayuktam, told in a story format, that is itihas, but something that happened in the past. Okay, now why do we say only Mahabharata and Ramayana? How can again we make that claim that they are itihas? Because our rishis have told us that. And our rishis were actually not just making random claims. Our entire Indic knowledge system is extremely well categorized, extremely well. You all know about Shruti and Smriti. There are 2 major classifications, 2 broad categories. Shruti, which is all the Vedas, yeah, the 4 Veds jo hamare hain. Then you have Smriti, which is a much broader group. What do Smritis have? Smritis have your darshans. It has your Dharma Shastras in which you have Manusmriti and all that. Now Manusmriti is only one of it, the Dharma Shastra. There are many Smritis, there are many Dharma Shastras. Dharma Shastras are like a book of law. कि क्या करना चाहिए क्या नहीं करना चाहिए. There are darshanas. What are darshanas? Advait, Dvait. How do you see? How do you perceive philosophy? जो सारा आता है. There are Vedangas. Yeah. Then we have Itihas, Puran. Then we have Natya and all of that. That Itihas and Puran. Now there are only 2 books which are called Itihas. which is Ramayana and Mahabharata, and for them they have defined it as itihas. Why were others not called itihas? Why was Manusmriti not called itihas? Right? Why was Shiva Puran not called itihas? Why? There has to be some logic to it, right? So these two books were called itihas because Purva Vruttam Katha Yuktam, something that happened in the past. Yeah. But there is something more interesting. It is not plain history, which is documentation. It's not just that. It is more than that. What is more than that? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Mokshanam, Upadesham, Samanvitam. You know, we all, IIM Ahmedabad, case studies, right? We learned from Harvard, but then basically in India, we are the pioneers of case studies. Why do we have case studies? I want one of the students to answer. Why do we have case studies? How does it matter? Like, why is it different? आपने college में engineering वगैरह सब कुछ किया होगा, है ना? अब यहाँ पे case study, and we are very proud of that case study teaching method. Anybody? Yes. What else? Learning from the past. Yes. And what else? Improve and make better decisions. Yes. Okay. Now, आपको operations में there is a theory given to you, right? By itself, it rarely makes sense. We understand it. रट्टा मार सकते हैं. But how to apply? Where do you learn that from properly? That is why we have case studies where we understand how to put that principle in practice. Now, also, if it is put in practice in a certain way, what happens? If it is put in practice in another way, what happens? Right? Now, if we take a case study and only say sahi galat, sahi galat, sahi galat, you are not learning anything out of it. Decision making. If we are learning right kind of decision making from that case study, then it makes sense. Okay. Then what is itihas? Dharma, artha, kama, moksha का ज्ञान तो धर्मशास्त्र में भी मिलता है, वेदों में भी मिलता है. Then what is itihas? Itihas is a case study of living our lives. How to put dharma into action, right? Dharma. महाभारत में युद्ध हुआ, क्या बोलते हैं उस युद्ध को? क्यों धर्म युद्ध? There are so many yuddhas that keep happening. No, why is this a dharma yuddha? Now, is it a religious war? They're all the same religion, so to say. So it is not a religious war. Then why dharma? Then what is dharma to begin with? That is the next question we have to ask ourselves. Because when we understand dharma, we can put what you said, right or wrong, kya hai? And then we will be able to even understand the events that have happened in our past to be able to make the right decisions rather than say, अरे कृष्णा ने तो rules break कर दिया, गलत है ना? राम ने वाली को पीछे से मार दिया, गलत. अग्नि परीक्षा हो गई, मिसोजिनी. कर्ण को मार दिया, निहत्ता, जातिवाद. What is this? This is absolute mental laziness, right? And why we are doing this? Because we don't read our itihas for what it is. We take in whatever is told to us. We don't even check whether it is coming from the itihas. We just buy it, right? And let me give you an example of that. Everyone here would have thought कि कर्ण के साथ बहुत बुरा हुआ, right? क्यों? क्योंकि एक तो बेचारा comes from what I, for the lack of better word, a lower jati, yeah, was refused. Dronacharya refused to teach him, right? He was capable, and then we start thinking ourselves कि अरे मेरे पास तो merit है पर मेरे को वो मिला नहीं, तो मेरे साथ कितना अत्याचार हुआ. उसी तरीके से this guy had merit. Only because Arjun was Kshatriya, he was allowed to learn. But कर्ण के साथ तो नहीं हुआ. इसीलिए whatever else he does in his life, right or wrong, everything sub marks, right? Now, how does it impact us now? We say, अरे वो बेचारा टेररिस्ट था, 1000 लोगों को मार दिया, but स्कूल टीचर का बेटा था, बेचारा, right? And we somehow think we are being very humanist in this. क्या सही क्या गलत is completely muddled up in our mind because we don't even understand what are the values we stand for. What are these values we stand for? As I said, for everybody, history matters. What does that history do? It develops our perspective. Yes, that perspective is actually developing a value system based on which we determine what is acceptable in our society and what is not acceptable in our society. The larger framework of that is what we call dharma. Okay. Now, what is dharma? The definition has been given to us, and it is such a deep definition that when I learned about it, also much later in life, मैं यहाँ पे अभी बैठ के भाषण दे रही हूँ, I was no better. Yeah, मुझे कुछ नहीं मालूम था till few years ago. I was that dumb that, as dumb as anybody could be. Yeah. But when I learned about this, I felt cheated. I felt cheated that this was not taught to me before. Right? Today we talk about design thinking. Yeah. And somehow design thinking ke sare authors will be Goras. All of them. Do you know what is the key part, the main part of Indic education system? It is called Anvikshaki. Anvikshaki, the word itself means it is an art of thinking. कभी सिखाया नहीं हमको, कभी नहीं सिखाया. Design principle are design thinking, man, right? Dharma का भी ऐसा ही है. We talk sustainability, sustainability, sustainability. We think it's a new concept. Suddenly the, Westerners have given that to us. And we are very happy. We think, we don't understand, Indians don't understand. Get it from outside. Dharma, the definition is dharayati iti dharma. Dharanat dharmiti ahu, dharmo dharayati praja, यह स्यात् धारण संयुक्तम सह धर्म इति निश्चयः यह स्यात् प्रभव संयुक्तम सह धर्म इति निश्चयः धारणात् धर्म इति आहु धर्म the root word is dhru. Every Sanskrit term comes from a dhatu. Yeah, there is a root word based on which the main word comes. So the root word of dharati is also dhru. Yeah, dhairya, dharan, all that is dhru. What is that? धरती क्या करती है? धरती हमें धारण करती है. रिलीजन नहीं है वो. धरती कुछ रिलीजन का काम नहीं कर रही है. What is धरती helping us do? It is helping us live, survive, thrive, right? Are basically making life happen. Dharanat dharmiti ahu. Because it sustains, because it upholds, it is called dharma. Ahu is dharma. Dharanat, from upholding and sustenance, it is called dharma. Dharmo dharayati praja. Dharma makes life happen. Yaha syat dharana sayuktam. Only that which leads to sustenance can be dharma. Yeah. Then it goes on to say, Prabhava Sayuktam, only Prabhava is welfare. Welfare of what? The larger society. Only that which leads to the large welfare of the larger society, that is Dharma. What is Dharma? Dharma is the overarching sustainability principle through which we must live our lives. And in that context, when you understand our itihas, now the decision-making process will start making sense. Why has Krishna behaved in a certain way? What has been the implication of that? Why has Sri Ram behaved in a certain way, right? You asked a very good question. How should our drishti be? You didn't use the word, but what you asked was, how should we understand itihas, right? The same thing is, how should we read a case study? Are we just reading it to judge people? Should we not judge people? We must. I'm not saying we shouldn't. Yeah. Every generation has to define its own value system, has to define its own heroes. No doubt about that. I am not the one to say don't question Ram, nor don't question Krishna. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying question all of them, but not with an attitude to dismiss, with an attitude to learn, because they have lived their life and gone. We are going to live our life now. We may still not agree with certain things, but pata to karo, pucho to sahi, ask the right questions, exactly like you do in a case study, right? Why did this happen? What were the available options? If this decision, which seemed suboptimal, wasn't taken, was there a better option available? Sometimes the options themselves are both suboptimal, but you have to make a decision because not making a decision is not a choice, right? Now I can go into a lot of examples from both the itihas in that regards, but I won't do that because we only have, I'm almost on time there. But I want to make this thing about where I said ki knowing itihas for what it is important, and that why? Because that determines the value system. So as I was talking about Karna, I lost that line of thought there. Sabse pehli baat, he's called a suta. Yeah. What are the sutas? We just assume because we are told that it is a certain way. Sutas are a mixed jati of Brahman and Kshatriya. Brahman and Kshatriya mixed jati. Now mixed jati, that means intermingling is also happening, right? Who else is a Suta? Do you know? Before we go into Karna. Because if I say कि कर्ण के साथ बुरा नहीं हुआ था, I need to have examples to say ना कि बाकी सूतों के साथ नहीं होता था. Only then I can claim that. Do I have other examples of Sutas? Not. So Parshuram is ulta. He is like Brahman Kshatriya. So mother is a Kshatriya and father is a Brahman. But there is a lot also. That's the other thing, right? We are made to think char jati. That's it. Completely segregated. Everybody. The top one was always, oppressing the नीचे वाला. This is what we've been taught to believe all the while, right? कि यही हमारा past है. Now, why do we believe it? Because we've seen that happen now. So, not to say that there are no problems. Let's understand that. Yeah. When I say वो ऐसा नहीं था, that doesn't mean I am justifying anything that's happening now. There are issues now. The thing is, what do we attribute that to? Because unless and until we understand the root cause of it, we will never be able to come at the right conclusion, right solution for it. Right? So there are problems here. Yes. Now, yes. But is it because of our past? Actually, no. It is because we've forgotten our past. Yeah. So as I was saying about Karna, one is Suta. The other, the Suta is Kichak. You guys remember? No, Kichak? Who's Kichak? Commander-in-chief. He is so strong that even though he tries to harass Draupadi, nobody can do anything. He's a warrior. Nobody had a problem with his being a warrior, right? Then why people have problem with Karna? Forget that. Kichak was Sudeshna's brother. Yeah, Sudeshna is Virat's wife. Sudeshna's daughter. Do you know who is Sudeshna's daughter? Uttara. Who did Uttara marry? Abhimanyu. यार सूत की बेटी से विवाह करने में तेरे को कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, बट कर्ण के साथ अत्याचार हुआ क्योंकि वो सूत है. Does it make sense? You know who else is a Sut? The person from whom we heard the Mahabharata right now. Ugrashrava Sauti. Ugrashrava Sauti. In fact, you know who else is a Sut? The whole Yadav Kul is a Sut. Because Yadu's father is Yayati. Mother is Devyani. Devyani is a Brahmin's daughter. Father is a Kshatriya. The whole Yadav Kul, where Krishna belongs, is a Suta, which eventually then moved to Kshatriya. So this kind of movements happened. Now to understand this, we have to read the Itihas for what it is. Nahi to pata nahi chalega. The other thing, let me say, Karna was Dronacharya's student. He was not denied education by Dronacharya. He was a friend. So he was a son of Dhritarashtra's friend Adhirath, who was also his charioteer, Sarthi at one point in time. Now again, we say Sarthi matlab driver. अरे बाप रे, नहीं यार, कृष्ण को सारथी बनाया था. Is it really something that looked down upon? Another thing, people have not looked down upon anything. So when we say Ram Rajya, you know what is Ram Rajya really? How it is defined in Ramayana? It says everybody is working, is busy in their own work, in their own professions, and everybody is santushta. All of them are engaged in different kinds of activities. Now, if one had more dignity versus the other, would there be santushti in everybody's lives? If one gave you a lot of money and the other did not, will there be santushti? You will want to take away what is there with others, right? Injustice hoga. Ram Rajya is where there is no taskari, there is no chori. Yeah, everybody is santushta, everybody is happy, everybody is niramay. Now, are we talking only about Brahman Kshatriyas? No. It says Chatur Varna Hitarthaya. That is the first lesson of Ramayana which Vishwamitra gives to Ram. Whatever a Raja does, whatever has to be for Chatur Varna Hitarthaya. Yeah. So why should we know our history for what it is? One, so that we are not gamed by the people in power. Whoever that power be, yeah, that we are not blamed for what, so we don't blame our ancestors for what they were not. Misogyny, I don't even want to get started there. We are always told लड़कियों के साथ बहुत अत्याचार होता था. Now, were the job roles differed? Yes. Was it आज के जैसा? No. But was it that they were actively denied agency? No, yaar. We have Shakuntala, we have Draupadi, we have Satyavati, we have Sita. She has taken all her decisions herself. We have Kekai, all these Ahalya. She was never made a stone. Never. No. In fact, Ramayana में श्री राम को विश्वामित्र कहते हैं, she is Devarupidi. Go and touch her feet. That is what it says. Yeah. Now I can keep going deeper and deeper into all this, but I won't. So one is owning our narrative. Why we need to know history for what it is. The second thing is, as I said the definition of itihas, right? We learn for ourselves. It is how do we live our lives in a worthy manner? What is that value system that we want to define for ourselves? What is that sustainability principle that we define for all of us? So let me take 5 minutes more, because I think the concept of dharma is very interesting. You know, I said overarching principle, dharma is one thing. Yeah. But how do we make it real? Dharma ka arth mere liye kya hai? Always, what is in it for me, right? You know, for we all are part of various institutions, right? Our family is an institution, IIMA is an institution, places where you work are institutions. Everywhere there is a code of conduct. There are certain things which are acceptable, certain things which are not acceptable, right? Now, say for example, your family. If all the stakeholders in the family, I'm using all these consultancy terms, which I'm sure IIMA should not have a problem understanding, right? All the stakeholders involved in the family, who are they? The family members, right? If one of them says my way or highway, and the other one is continuously exploited, will that family system stay? No. So what does it mean? Everybody has a certain responsibility to make that family system survive, sustain, right? Now, when you do your responsibility, you get the freedom, the right, and the support system of that system. Correct? If you don't fulfill your responsibility and want only rights, nahi milega yaar, that system will not survive. Right? So, basically, har kutumb ka ek dharma hota hai. As a part of that kutumba, we all have a certain dharma to fulfill. That is why we have putra dharma, putri dharma, pita dharma, matru dharma. Right? So that is dharma. Take for example IIMA. There are certain do's and don'ts for IIMA as well. If we start behaving the way we want to, and the reputation of IIMA suffers, will it not impact back on the students themselves when it comes to placement? Right? So if you want good placements, you have to ensure you behave responsibly towards the organization. There is a dharma you have towards the organization. So there is a code of conduct which will make IIMA survive and sustain, which we all have to abide by, right? The same thing expanded to a state or a country or whatever. So we all have dharmas, right? Now there is this thing which keeps coming up. It says dharmo rakshati rakshitah. Dharma eva hato hanti, dharmo rakshati rakshitah. What is dharma rakshati rakshitah? Are we saying fight a jihad to claim your religion? No. We are saying exactly what I said. If you want that institution to survive, then you will have to fulfill your dharma. If you behave in a way that that institution will not survive, what will happen? Dharma eva hato hanti, dharmo rakshati rakshitah. If you protect dharma, the institution will protect you, the dharma will protect you. This is exactly what it means. This is what we have to take away from our itihas. To understand what are those things which make sustenance happen and which make destructions happen. And that then leads us to who are the heroes that we should look up to. Right? जब हम heroes की बात करते हैं ना, we always think of heroes, villains, and now suddenly we start that postmodern lens and all that, and we say Ravan तो बहुत बड़ा hero था, but the history was written by somebody else, hence skewed up, right? Yeah, we'll say Kauravas were the real winners, but because history is written by victors, Pandavas are called great. अच्छा, पहली बात तो let's debunk that. Who wrote? From whom do we know Mahabharata? Who was Ved Vyasa? Yes, but what else? There is something more important. But what else? Exactly. He is not a victor. He is equally connected to both Pandavas and the Kauravas. Equally, दोनों उनके grand बच्चे हैं, है ना? This is not a story written by victors at all. Okay, so सबसे पहले तो वही bank हो जाता है when people say कि अरे, अच्छा, second thing, why are Karna and Duryodhana called villains and why are the others called heroes? Not because one side is perfect, the other side is not. No, But the point is, how are people living their dharma? From where is it coming? Right? What do they prioritize? What have Kauravas, or especially Duryodhana and Karna done? They have always prioritized their ego, their ahankar, their matsarya, their jealousy. Yeah, जो षड रिपु की हम बात करते हैं, काम क्रोध लोभ मोह मद मात्सर्य. The impulses are where they are coming from. They are reacting to every situation. No control on senses, no control on the mana, right? Hence they are called villains, or people who have asuric tendencies. Asur is not so much about a race. Yeah, it is about your tendency. Where is your decision making coming from? Is it coming from an objective buddhi? The whole time Krishna keeps saying yogastha buddhi, yogastha buddhi, yogastha buddhi. What is yogastha buddhi to begin with? Yogastha buddhi is the objective buddhi. Now you see, I'll explain yogastha buddhi a little bit more. Lot of you are going to be consultants. Yeah, people pay consultants a lot of money. Why do they pay consultants a lot of money? Consulting firms are also amongst the higher ones to give salary. Yeah, क्यों? करते तो कुछ नहीं है. If you show them what is your output, is there a material output? जाके ज्ञान देते हैं, है ना? उसके लिए इतना पैसा, and people are willing to pay. Why? Why? What do outside perspectives, third party unbiased perspective, right? You are not involved, you are not attached, काम नहीं है. So when you are not involved and attached, you are an unbiased person. You will be able to decide, or at least look at a problem holistically without an impulsive reaction to the situation. That is why they get us and they pay us so much money. Krishna is saying, you become yogastha yourself. Learn to develop that objective buddhi in your own mind, right? This is what he's telling the Pandavas also. And Dharmaraj, why is Yudhishthir called the Dharmaraj? Now, one thing is, अरे stake पे लगा दिया. I think that वो आप जाके थोड़ा और study करिए उस पे. ठीक है? But why is he called Dharmaraj? Because he has that objective buddhi कि we don't always have to react क्योंकि गुस्सा आ गया. Sometimes you wait and you respond. In fact, all the time you respond. Don't ever react, right? Response is what the objective buddhi gives you. How does that objective buddhi happen? The objective buddhi can only happen when your mind is in your control. When you're not coming from a position of काम क्रोध लोभ मोह मद मात्सर्य. क्रोध होगा तो क्या होगा? Krishna says ना, कामात् संजायते क्रोध क्रोधात्. When you are too attached of something and you don't get it, तो क्या होगा? क्रोध आ जाएगा. क्रोध आ जाएगा तो क्या हो जाएगा? You will not even think. आप किसी को चाटा मार दोगे, देखोगे भी नहीं कि इसका implication मेरे पे क्या होगा, right? Basically, it leads to loss of vivek buddhi, right? Your decisions will never be right. But when you are doing it from a sense of objectivity, that can only happen when your mind is controlled. हमेशा pleasure pain, टिप 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 नहीं हो रहा है. That is samatva. That is objective buddhi. That is the focus. So when we say heroes are those who have displayed that kind of objective buddhi. Villains are those who haven't. Ravan is not a great brother, for heaven's sake. He does not go to take Sita because he wants to take revenge of his sister. No, he could have fought now. Revenge लेना होता तो 14,000 उनके राक्षसों को मार दिया था. नहीं, he went because Shurpanakha knew how to get him triggered. Kama. He was driven by lust. He was always into lust. Sita was not the first lady he had kidnapped. He'd done many more before. Yeah. What led to his downfall was his ahankar, was his lust. Yeah. So how do we then define heroes also becomes important. And for all of this, we need to understand and learn the itihas for what it is. Sir asked a question, how do we then know itihas? Because itna sara retellings hai na? Palace of Illusions to bolta hai Draupadi Karna ka love affair tha. है ना? Then we have other books, Mrityunjay claiming the best person on the entire earth is Karna, right? तो हम सच किसे माने? किस बात को हम सच माने? These questions have been asked and these questions have been answered, just that we don't know. So all the retellings that you know of, hear of, the one which has recently come out which says actually Ram Ravan का युद्ध था, that was Aryan Dravidian conflict. उसमें अच्छा बुरा कुछ लेना देना नहीं था. Aryan Dravidian, the bad Aryans killed the good Dravidian. Yeah, No, it is not a racial conflict. Ramayana mein, everybody has been called Arya and Arya. In fact, Mandodari calls Ravan Arya. He is a Brahmin son. Vishrishava ke bete hai wo. Right? So anyways, where I was going is, so there are critical editions that we refer to. How are these critical editions made? People have collected all the available manuscripts that were out there, or whatever was available, and usme se they check what is common in maximum of those manuscripts. Yeah, they also check consistency and all that. Uska bahut, it's like a detailed, very deep exercise, which for Mahabharata has been done by Bhandarkar Oriental Institute, Bori. Bori has a critical edition which has been translated in English by Vivek Dabroji. It's a good version to go to. Gita Press Sanskrit Hindi is also very good. There are some changes here and there, but otherwise that is also very good to refer to. K.M. Ganguly is a good version to refer to. Now, even in all this, what is very interesting is all these manuscripts of Mahabharata, the characters are actually very consistent. Karna का character is very consistent. All the characters are very consistent. ऐसा नहीं है कि कुछ और ही डाल दिया है. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. There was some incidents here and there. Same thing has been done for Ramayana by Baroda, Sayaji, I think that university. But उसमें भी the Gita Press version is actually very good. The southern recension is very good that you can refer to. So Valmiki Ramayana is Itihas. Vyas Rachit Mahabharata is Itihas. Everything else is based on those stories but are retellings. So if you have to go back to one, judge the society, do it based on the authentic sources. Yeah, even if you want to judge, if you want to learn the right lessons, go back to the authentic sources, is what I'd claim. And my only purpose in bringing these two books out were my own curiosity. कि भाई क्या है? Is everything, because they keep telling us ना कि इतिहास में सब ग्रे है, कुछ right wrong कुछ नहीं है, सब कुछ चलता है ना? कृष्ण भी तो ऐसे ही छली कपटी, कभी भी छल कर रहा है, मन में आया छल कर दिया, convenience से छल कर दिया. I said, is that what we are calling a dharma grantha? Seriously, is that what it is? This is what our rishis were telling us. These questions led me to read the itihas for what it is, and there were like these tube-light moments. As I said, right, I felt cheated. And then when the writing thing came up, so what I have done is I have kept my interpretations, my views at the minimum. I have only summarized what the actual text say, because that is important, as I said, for knowing itihas for what it is. So I will conclude here. Sorry for taking more time. Thank you.
So I thank you for actually enlightening us on many important ideas. I was taking some notes. The biggest for me would be the dharma and the how you spell out itihas. So before I open the floor for questions, just one question from my side. These are extremely long epics as well, and Mahabharata is the world's longest epic, as it is said. Tell us a little bit about what was your thought, or what was the process you used to actually cull out from that big epic, that big story, some of the things that you've written in the book. And I see we have two very young audiences in the members in the audience. So you are very correct. They give us hope. So tell us a little bit, Amy, about how did you identify these stories that are there, and what's the we heard the background. What's the message you are trying to convey through these books? Is the mic okay? Mic is off.
You know, as you very rightly said, Mahabharata is huge, and deciding what to pick in Mahabharata is actually a difficult exercise, because one, we have the core story, but there are lots of discourses. And in fact, when we say what is in it for me, the discourses themselves are really, really beneficial. Like Sir has written a book on economic sutras, right? A lot of it is given in Mahabharata. There is a whole chapter, no, not a chapter, there is the whole thing on Shanti Parva. Shanti Parva is all about what is Raj Dharma. Administration kaisa hona chahiye. What is the Indic view on economics? What is the Indic view on administration? Yeah, that itself is something great that we can learn from it. The other is Sir has a book on leadership lessons, right? So organizational behavior kaisa hona chahiye. I told you what dharma is. Really, that leads to how should people behave. Theories on organization, team behaviors, all this we can learn from Mahabharata and Ramayana as well. So that's not answering your question, but that is a lot which is also there. But when I wanted to pick something, I said, सबसे पहले let's start with taking up those topics or taking up those aspects which are not really being understood in the society. जिनके बारे में myths बहुत सारे हैं. ठीक है, जैसे the whole thing about Karna or Draupadi. You know what really hurts me is that the way Draupadi has been characterized as somebody who was either a victim or somebody who was always angry and asking for Dushasan's blood and all that. No, but when you actually read the Mahabharata, she is this lady who's extremely graceful. Yeah, अच्छा दूसरा thing they'll say, उसने तो युद्ध करा दिया, क्योंकि अंधे का पुत्र अंधा बोला. अंधे का पुत्र अंधा does not occur in any manuscript of Mahabharata. None whatsoever. ठीक है, ये और किधर से तो somebody का मसाला है, because you know जल जोरू जमीन उन्हीं से युद्ध होता है, तो जोरू को बना दो culprit, right? So she is so graceful and she is so learned that she is not somebody who will even say these things, yeah. And the whole personality of Draupadi has not been brought out in the regular discourse, because the regular discourse mainly comes from televisions or the fiction that has been written around it. So the main thing was, how do I bring out those aspects which are really, from which we can really learn, start understanding history for what it is, and debunk some of the myths. That was the key part of taking the story. So then I said, let's keep focusing on the stories and the characters for now. Discourses, Krishna willing, I hope will come again, because I think there is so much to do in that as well, so much to learn from that as well. And actually, I'll take one more minute to share an example. It just came to me. What is in it for me? And then this based on this question. I used to, when मैंने बताया ना मैं हांगकांग में काम करती थी, so we had a leadership training in Germany, because I used to work for a German company. और वहाँ हम गए, we were 20 of us, and somebody from Oxford Leadership Institute had come. 2 days of training, fantastic, yeah, organizational behavior, team, how do you feel worthwhile, contentment, वगैरह, all that happened. We were 2 desis in that. 2 desi लोग थे, बाकी सब और लोग थे. So after the session happened, now at that point, this must be sometime around 2015, 2016. I had been into yoga. I had been learning a bit of Sanskrit and Gita and stuff. So after the training happened, I went on, but I was in general very naive about a lot of these things. Yeah, I went up to the trainer and I said, "Sir, a lot of what you are saying, I can relate to it. हमारी गीता में ऐसा ही है सब." ठीक है, this is what I told him, that it all in Gita, these are exactly questions asked and these are the kind of answers given that you're talking about. So he started laughing. Now I was like, "अरे कितना same है." You know, that is what I wanted to show. And he's like, yeah, I spent 3 years learning in India. And I was like, but you didn't mention that. So a lot of the theories that you guys have put English names to, of course, with some innovation, a lot of it is based on Eastern values, Eastern psychology, all of that. But you are not giving us credit for that. And what do? We pay you all this money to teach us back what we have, but we don't want to learn that because it's not cool. Right? So that was another shock to my life. कि भाई ये क्या है? Then I was someone studying was studying न्याय शास्त्र. मुझे सिर्फ इंटरेस्ट था, मुझे ये न्याय क्या है पता करते हैं, ठीक है? तो वहाँ पे ट्रांसलेशन में ये था कि people who can, like, what are the different kinds of argument? Different kinds of argument में एक kind of argument था where this person says only people of the same caste can argue with each other. I was like, यार अब तक तो कहीं कास्ट आया नहीं, अब सडनली कहाँ से कास्ट आ गया? So that Sanskrit shloka had the word jati. Yeah. Now for us, jati is not just caste. Jati is what? पेड़ों की जाति, फलों की जाति, पक्षियों की जाति. Yeah. But for them, jati is only caste. Now, when somebody doesn't read the Sanskrit and only reads the translation, what they will say? इसमें भी जातिवाद घुसा दिया, right? And I'm like, hey, भगवान ये चल क्या रहा है? Is it मुझे whatever I'm consuming? Is it really what I must? Yeah. So some of these things then have eventually translated into picking what I did for this to begin with. Let's see, आगे तो बहुत है अभी.
Very well said. I can tell you, I teach and write a little bit on mindfulness and emotional intelligence, and there is a huge amount of program that goes on in the West. They call it as mindfulness-based stress reduction. And this person who started the program, he actually looked at, now it has become a very Western thing and we are taking it from them, but actually he trained under Buddhist monks. They taught him all these things that he talks about, meditation and how do you control your mind that you said. And for the two young people in the audience, one story from Mahabharata, which when I reflect it now, all the more it becomes so important that our itihas had talked about these things way earlier than anybody in the world had even thought about it. When Duryodhana asked, when Dronacharya asks Arjun, he says he is training all these boys, story that we have all heard. He says one by one he's calling each one of them and say, take the aim. And he says, तुम्हें क्या दिखता है? And everybody is saying, मुझे पेड़ दिखता है, मुझे पत्ती दिख रही है. And then he calls Arjun and says, तुम्हें क्या दिखता है? And he says, sir, और क्या दिखेगा? मुझे तो आँख दिखती है. That's the biggest lesson on mindfulness. That's the biggest lesson on concentration. That's the biggest lesson on focus, that you do what you are. And today we are again, all that you said, that those people talk about, well, this is something that we are building. So very much kind of important lessons. Anybody, any questions now from the audience? We have some time. And you would be very surprised to know the viewership during the COVID of Ramayana and Mahabharata that was shown. I would say it was just unbelievable, and the kind of reception that there was a special request that was made to Mr. Javadekar that you must air these, and the Sagar Productions, they said, well, we will show it for free. If there is so much of people want them, and we went back to our itihas to actually give us strength and solace during those testing times. Yes, Akshay.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Amiji. I just wanted to, so I understand that there are many versions and we need to go back to authentic sources to learn from them. But I also believe somewhere implicit in this discourse was the need to understand the fundamental principles upon which these texts need to be evaluated or analyzed. So most of us, we do not know, or we may not even have access to sources from where we can learn about the fundamental principles. Specifically, what dharma is, or what does it entail, what are its definitions. Are there any such sources that we can
the definition that I just said,
explore? Yeah.
It is from Mahabharata only. Because as I said, right, Mahabharata or Ramayana itself, they are so rich. They are case studies. Yeah. So there are dharma sankats. What are dharma sankats? People being part of different institutions. Now those priorities are conflicting. What is the issue with Dhritarashtra? His biggest issue is his pita dharma, what he thinks is good for his son, versus his Raja dharma. That is in conflict, right? What is the issue that Arjun is faced with? Kutumba dharma or the larger Raj dharma? What should he protect, right? These are the questions which actually are answered by Krishna or Bhishma or anybody. So the definition I just said, it is something which Bhishma says, and it is also something which Krishna tells Arjun. Yeah, this definition is from there only. So in fact, if we start digging into the topics, all these things become clear on their own. Yeah, why certain things have happened? Because nothing has been left to imagination. They have explained. Now, one thing you mentioned, right or wrong, I think I already said the larger concept that which leads to sustenance is right. That which does not lead to sustenance is wrong. If you guys have time, can I take 5 minutes and tell you a story? This is like my favorite story. Works for everybody? So it is the 17th day of the war. Yeah, 17th day of the war. अब तो फाइनल है कि कर्ण और अर्जुन को सामने सामने आना ही है, ठीक है? They have to face each other. that day Karna is in his best performance, because tab tak he has not been in his best performance. Yeah, he sat out the first 10 days even though he was the one who wanted the war. Then uske baad bhi jo hona tha wo nahi hua. Most of the Kaurav senapatis have been killed by now. But that day he's like, I am going to perform my best. So when Yudhishthir comes in front of him, Yudhishthir ko bahut injure kar dete hain, to the extent that Yudhishthir Sarthi takes Yudhishthir back to the camp. He's that injured, yeah. And that injury, that humiliation, that pain is so much on his mind that he gets very delusional. He's in a lot of pain. So when Bhim and Arjun don't see Yudhishthir, they're like, kahan gaye pade? Where is he, right? Like, because if Raja is caught, the whole war would have been over. So Bhim says, I'll wait here, you go and see where Yudhishthir is. So Arjun goes back to the camp to check on Yudhishthir. When Yudhishthir sees Arjun, he's like, Arey, Karna ko maar diya. You've come back, you've killed Karna and you've come back. I'm so happy and all that. And Arjun's like, nahi, aisa kuch nahi hua. I'm yet to face him. I just wanted to check on you. And Yudhishthir loses it. Yudhishthir absolutely loses it. Because kya hua shuruaat se? Pehle Arjun was dilly-dallying, fighting the war itself. Then he was dilly-dallying, fighting with Bhishma. Yeah. So all this is, he's fought. But then when it comes to these major ones, Arjun has been not in his right frame of mind. So Yudhishthir says, I know you don't want to fight. You're afraid. You're a coward. You're afraid of Karna. You don't want to face him. Hence, you've come back as a bahana to take care of, to see me. Usse acha to this Gandhi of yours, you give it to Krishna. Let Krishna fight. Even more, अगर तुम्हारे बजाय घटोत्कच और अभिमन्यु जिंदा होते तो मेरे ज्यादा काम के होते. They would have made me win. What are you doing, right? Now, when Arjun hears कि गांधी किसी को दे दो, he also loses it. Yeah, tempers are high at that point, right? So he takes out his talwar and he rushes towards Yudhishthir. Yeah, and Krishna is standing there watching it. He's like, oh, hello, what's going on? Rukja, what are you up to? Yeah, and Arjun says, I have done a pratigya. And the pratigya is that if somebody says, "Mere Gandhi ko koi kuch bhi bolega na," so I'll have to sirached that person. Now, unfortunately, it's my brother. But pratigya to pratigya hai. Kshatriya ki pratigya matlab kya? है ना? जान जाए पर वचन न जाए. अब ये तो करना ही पड़ेगा भले कुछ भी हो जाए. Because satya matters. Satya matters. So then Krishna says, what satya? What satya? What dharma? Do you even understand dharma and satya to begin with? क्या बकवास कर रहे हो तुम? He says, पूर्वम बाले नीरो, बच्चे की जैसे मूर्खता में भरकर तुमने कोई प्रतिज्ञा ले ली, है ना? तुमने किसी से पूछा whether that pratigya is right or wrong, does it make sense? Nothing. Like a fool, like a kid, you took that pratigya, and now to fulfill that stupidity, you are committing another stupidity. What do you understand dharma? Now, another thing, Arjun is such a big Maharathi. अर्जुन को गीता के समय भी कृष्णा had said कि अशोचान अन्वशोचस्य प्रज्ञावादांश भाष से, जिसपे शोक नहीं करना चाहिए उसमें तुम शोक करो, अपने आप को बहुत शाणे समझ रहे हो, है ना? अभी वो उसको बोल रहे कि तुम मूर्खता कर रहे हो, ये सब वो बोलते हैं. एंड अर्जुन इज नॉट फाइटिंग बाकी मेरे को वैसे बोल दिया. The same thing done with Karna. Anybody कोई कुछ भी बोलेगा ना, he will start fighting. At one aspect he tells Krupacharya, इस ब्राह्मण की तुम्हें जीभ काट दूंगा. Yeah, very big difference between the two. This guy is still humble. He's very humble. He takes feedback. The other guy cannot take feedback. But anyways, that apart. So then Krishna says, let me tell you a story. Okay, let's figure out what Satya is, what Dharma is. Let me tell you a story. There was a Rishi named Kaushik many years ago. And this Rishi Kaushik had a pratigya. What was his pratigya? मैं सच के सिवाय कुछ नहीं बोलूंगा. मैं बोलूंगा तो सच ही बोलूंगा, सच के सिवाय कुछ नहीं बोलूंगा. He is towards the end of his life. Yeah. He is sitting in a tapasya one day और कुछ गांव वाले हैं वो भाग कर वहां आ रहे हैं. The गांव वाले look at this sadhu and they're like, साधु महाराज हम लोग वहां पे छुपने जा रहे हैं, हमारे पीछे कुछ डाकू पड़े हुए हैं, please tell them we are not here. Okay. Now the dakus come, they also see the sadhu. They're like, Sadhu Maharaj, आपने देखा? Now the Sadhu Maharaj is like, यार पूरी जिंदगी निकल गई. My entire life, I have only spoken the truth. Now I'm literally on the verge. I don't know when I'm going to die. What should I do? प्रतिज्ञा का पालन करूं या प्रतिज्ञा का पालन ना करूं? क्या करना चाहिए? क्या करना चाहिए? पूरी जिंदगी यार, it's not an easy decision. He's had this tapasya and he's expecting कि स्वर्ग मिलेगा. क्या करते हैं आप लोग? नहीं बोलना चाहिए. Good. I think all your moral compasses are in the right place. Kaushik doesn't do that. Kaushik says, क्या प्रतिज्ञा तो प्रतिज्ञा है, सत्य तो सत्य है, झूठ तो नहीं बोलते तो through having a falsehood for sure, ना? But Kaushik says the truth. The Gawalas get killed. Kaushik dies, goes to Yamraj. Yamraj is like, इसको नर्क में भेज दो. And this guy is like, अरे, like seriously, पूरी जिंदगी निकल रही है ना, आप उसको नर्क में भेज रहे हो. And then Yamraj says, do you understand dharma? Yad bhut hitam tad dharma. जिसमें सारे इनोसेंस का, सारी समाज का, जीवन का भला है, वो ही धर्म हो सकता है ना? तो क्या इस तरीके से निहत्थे युधिष्ठिर को मार कर तुम धर्म का काम कर रहे हो? क्या कर रहे हो? Right? Now the question is, what does it mean? Is it a thing of convenience? Actually, this allows me to come back to the first point I made. Yeah, is this a thing of convenience where I say, मेरा भाई है तो I can lie? है ना? Convenience. No. Krishna says there are certain aspects you have to understand. There are few situations in which a lie is not a lie. When is it? When you see an innocent is getting killed. Yeah? और किसी का सब कुछ सर्वस्व ये हो रहा है, सबका सर्वस्व जब हर इसका ये हो रहा है, विनाश हो रहा है, you can say falsehood. या in a situation of a marriage where एक झूठ बोलने से दो लोगों की लाइफ सेट हो जाती है, there you can say. Yeah, so the intention from where it's coming matters, but as far as possible speak truth only. Yeah, as far as possible speak truth only. Now you see, this is the interesting part of our dharma. गीता के 700 श्लोक कृष्ण अर्जुन को बताते हैं. You know what he says after that? नहीं, he doesn't सब भूल जाओ. He says, यथा इच्छसि तथा कुरु. I've told you all this. Now do what you think you want to do. Why? Because along with dharma, there is karma siddhanta. You have to own your actions. You have to own the results of it. Even though the result may not always be in your control. But your intention and your action has to be yours. Krishna भी केवल सारथी ही बन सकते हैं. He cannot fight the war for you. Right? We are grown up with this, and that is why we are okay with chaos. We don't have a do's and don'ts, right? There are rules and regulations. It's not as if कुछ भी चलता है. As I said, dharma है, so there are some things which are acceptable, not acceptable. But by and large, there is this flexibility where there is chaos, and we learn to find our way through it. That is another thing which differentiates from everybody else. And that is why where we are coming from, to understand that, also itihas is important. Sorry, I start with a question and I go all over the place.
Yeah, okay. Last, ma'am, I just wanted to know that are there any avenues where we can learn Sanskrit so that we can, so the original text can be put bit more accessible?
Correct. So you can,
as we have learned in the process of
so
writing.
again, I will claim that I have a working knowledge of Sanskrit. Yeah? I'm not a grammar expert or anything like that. I have a working knowledge which is good enough. To the extent where there is something wrong in the translation, I read the Sanskrit, and if there's something wrong in the translation, I can wo chamakta hai. Yeah, so that is good enough, and to get there is not tough. There are courses which are online courses by Sanskrit Bharati, Rashtriya Sanskrit Sanstha, Vyoma Pathshala. There are loads and loads now. Yeah, and I remember when I was in Hong Kong, when I was learning that, majority of the students who were learning Sanskrit were Chinese. Again, diplomacy. Yeah. So anyway, so it's not tough. There are lots of avenues. What you require, as you know, Arjun asks, कि this man is very chanchal. Chanchal है ही mana Krishna. इसको control कैसे करें? Because how is it? वायु है वो, जैसे हवा के जैसा है. मन को control करना बहुत difficult है. तो कैसे करो? This is true for everything that we do. Yeah, we don't have time. ये नहीं है, वो नहीं है. तो कैसे करो? And Krishna says, अभ्यासेन तु कौन्तेय, वैराग्येन तु गृह्यते. You need the discipline for अभ्यास. उतना करोगे, everything is possible. There is no age bar. Because we know कोई ना कोई भारतीय भाषा तो आती है ना. संस्कृत पिकअप करना इतना कठिन नहीं है, और आप देखोगे कि आपकी और भाषाएं भी उससे बेहतर होगी. तो there are lots of avenues. You just have to go online and check. Yeah.
Hello. Here. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, मैंने इतना कुछ पढ़ा नहीं हूँ महाभारत के बारे में, but देखा जरूर है बी आर चोपड़ा का, जैसे सबने देखा है। सो एक बहुत ही डिस्टर्बिंग चीज थी जब चीर हरण के वक्त धर्मराज और बहुत सारे धर्मवीर चुप थे। आई जस्ट वांट टू नो कि अगर वो धर्मराज थे तो ये क्यों हुआ?
करेक्ट, ओके, गुड क्वेश्चन। या इसका उत्तर ना एक्चुअली लेटर ऑन, क्योंकि उनको बहुत ताने मारते हैं भीम द्रौपदी दोनों ही, व्हेन दे आर इन देयर वनवास, या दोनों ही बहुत ताने मारते हैं। एंड ही सेज दैट एट दैट टाइम आई गॉट कैरिड अवे। He very well says that, and he says why? Because I was in rage. Why was I in rage? Because I was losing everything. Yeah, I was losing everything. तब मेरा कंट्रोल ही नहीं रहा. I should have stopped at some point, but I couldn't. But that is one aspect of it. Yeah. Now see what is happening during the Dyut Sabha. Yeah. एक तो वो हारे जा रहे हैं. सबसे पहले द्रौपदी wasn't the first person to be staked. जब ये सब लोग हार गए, उसके बाद द्रौपदी को स्टेक किया है. Not he doesn't do it himself. He says अब मेरे पास कुछ नहीं. After he loses himself, he says I have nothing more to stake. Shakuni says you have Draupadi Paraswa, stake Draupadi. You have Draupadi. Now at that point, you know, when a person has lost everything, there is this ray of hope. Kadachit जीत जाओ. नहीं तो they were all dastards by that time. Right? They had become slaves for the year. Now, if they were slaves, what was the situation of Draupadi by default? अगर नहीं भी स्टेक किया होता, what was her status? Now, if we say that she is not a dasi, then what we are saying, the marriage institution itself is not sanctimonious, right? Then we are saying the sanctity of marriage doesn't hold. This is also the confusion why Bhishma is not able to answer. He says dharma paramagati, कि धर्म की गति ना बहुत सूक्ष्म है. Why? Because if he says, so she's asking jitam va api ajitam va, am I lost or am I one or am I not one? If he says that you are one, then he is completely degrading her, right? If he says you are not one, what he is saying is these people are not your husbands anymore because वो लोग तो दास है. Actually, this is what Karna is saying. So the person who suggests the disrobing idea is Karna. Karna is the one who says एक वस्त्र एक अंबर धरा हुआ विवस्त्र हुआ, एक कपड़े में आए बिना कपड़े में आए, क्या फर्क पड़ता है, ये तो बंधी की है. Karna is the only one who calls her Veshya in the entire Mahabharata. Nobody else has. Acha, anyways, so that is why with that ray of hope he stakes her.
Amy.
And again they are lost. Sorry, yeah. So this is what happens. But as I said, see that technicality where nobody is able to speak. But then at that point, what Draupadi does is something you should go back and read, and that shows her strength of character.
Yeah, the question she asks
Yes.
in the assembly. If
actually more than question, what she says, when she's given the option कि भाई आप वरदान मांगो.
हाँ, yeah, पहले मेरे उन सबको.
हाँ?
Yeah, when Dhritarashtra is up. Satish.
Oh, sorry.
Do we have time? Otherwise, I mean, I can always talk. No, just comments actually. So I'm glad that a business school student of mine was making this presentation because I had lost hope from business school students. And just to comment a few things, I think everybody must read. I have not read the book, but whatever you have presented, I think everybody must read the book because there are no finalities in Mahabharata. Like Bible, you know, this is how it is. No, there are no finalities, right? And for example, since you mentioned about Karna, same thing about Ekalavya. But you know, in the olden times, grandparents used to teach stories tell stories to the grandkids. In our time, it was Amar Chitrakatha. Mr. Pai could try his best, but he was not sitting next to us. This generation, nobody knows. Therefore, I think a lot of information is lost. For example, like Karna, Ekalavya, you know, we say that he was treated unfairly, but there are so many stories around it. You know, the Mahabharata is like an elephant, and one picks up only one part of and tells the story. Why he did not teach maybe another stuff. You take my class and then I'll tell the story. But there are so many, that's nice. And even about women, I'm glad you mentioned that there was so much independence to women. You know, you mentioned about Draupadi and Karna, but you know, once she was asked, you tell a truth and the fruit will go back. There's another story to it. And she says, Panchame pataya santi shashtastu mavarochate. I like the sixth one. Right? So she was quite holding on her own.
Yeah, actually, I would say, sir, this one is a folklore. This is not in Mahabharata. In fact, she never ever aspired. The guy calls her Vishya. Is she like what? Why will she ever be in love with her? So this comes from an Odia folk tale, not a part of any Mahabharata. But that apart, that does not mean she did not have independence. There is a Satyabhama Draupadi Samvad in Mahabharata where Draupadi tells Satyabhama what was her role as the queen of Indraprastha. That is worth reading. ये सारा अपना right, this, that, misogyny सब उड़ जाएगा. She says, I am the only one who has complete transparency on the pura khajana of Indraprastha. Nobody else knows. I know that. She is like the CEO of that pura. So
Okay.
it's worth knowing. But anyways, we have a lot of time.
Yeah, so thank you very much. And I think if we can summarize one thing from the whole talk is that we need to be extremely proud of our own civilization. We need to be proud of what we have got from our ancestors, the itihas that we have. There are stories which we must learn. These are stories that which should guide us in our life, in the dilemmas that we face. Thank you, Amy, for writing these, bringing these stories out, coming here, talking to us, and for sharing your thoughts. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ami Ganatra, for your valuable talk and time. Also, thanks to Professor Vishal Gupta and audience to come and join. Now I request to B.B. Chansel, librarian of the Vikram Sarabhai Library, to give a small memento